But I wonder if in 47, well, see, the train started in January. Yeah, and that's what there's a lot of that detail.
I lived there originally. I did some diligence. There's a couple of shops there. That lasted for a couple of years. And finally, one day my outlet told me, that became a record shop. Get all our money together and go down to empty car. I didn't start doing that until there was the city block.
Okay, we're ready to start again. So if we can all sit down and get started, I would appreciate it.
Sometimes it's pretty close. Well, that's why Springfield, he puts stuff somewhere. Scoreboard. Post office. Yeah. They were nice.
Okay, we're ready to start. I don't think I need to give much introduction. It's Greg Smith, and he is just in the process of finishing up a book on a comprehensive book on the availability of B&O models. And he's going to make a presentation and just show you what the contents of the book are and explain a little bit about it. It'll probably be printed out from the printer, what, early September, Greg?
Mid-September.
Mid-September.
We'll have it by the convention. Okay, thank you, Andy.
Before you start, I want to remind people of all the time it was that held, so.
Now the commercial. This project started 30 some years ago. And the reason I started it was, I always said, I don't have enough photographs to do a comprehensive model of B&O locomotives. And I remembered, well, I saw this picture in this book, and I go, what page was it, and whatever else. So I started a spreadsheet back in the late 80s, early 90s, started doing it. And then it went on sabbatical. I changed 2 jobs. I printed out hard copies. And thanks to COVID, I'm sitting around the house and I'm saying, I'm going to finish this project. So I took the printouts, put them all in Excel, put it into a new Excel sheet, and then I started doing it, picking up from where I left off, and this is where this is. This book is a comprehensive, but not complete. You can never be complete. I don't have every periodical, I don't have every book that's ever been published, but I've taken what I have and what other people shared with me and given this book an outline or something so that somebody's doing modeling. And the reason I call it historical modeling is because the B&O has been going now since 1987. So you're actually doing historical modeling. So that's why the book is called this. So the title page is there. Here's the table of contents. I gotta, one, this is not the best projector, so you're not gonna see it clearly. And secondly is to get everything in a book that wasn't 1,000 pages, I had to use smaller font. So most of this is number 10 font, some of it's a little bigger. For this presentation, the titles have been enlarged and bolded. As you can see, there's 11 sections, and then there's an appendice in the back with 7 appendix in the back. All the steam classes. Section 1 is a quick roster, which I'll talk about briefly. Section 2 lists all the references that I used in this book. And then all your different steam classes, and then all your different diesel types. Next one. So here we are, the references. As you can see, every 5th one I highlighted. It makes it easier to go through to find, and I left the space so you can count real quick. You can't put a whole title sometimes in a box, the cell for Excel. So the user abbreviation, I put a number in front of it. That number references to the reference sheet here. So, oh, what's number 10? Well, that's that one right there. I can't even read it myself, and I put it in there. Next one. When we went to press, or we decided to go for this, we got 294 references in there. So it goes through that, and there's been, the Sentinel gets published every quarter, so I may do a supplemental issue later on. There's a couple books coming out. I'll add those in, and then I'll also add the information into what I already have. So if I ever decide to do a second edition, it'll be there. This is a trial run. We're not going to do an extremely large press run on this because this is not a picture book. This is a reference book and it's a workbook. In other words, it's intended to be written into. So as you go through, you can write notes in the book. So as you're modeling, you can highlight what you want, what you don't want, whatever else you can do, whatever the book is. Next page. So here's section 3. This is the reference. No, it's not. I forgot that. I forgot the one on the quick roster. The quick roster is every class, every original number, and if it got renumbered, you have a list of all the renumbering it did. For example, the original P class specifics were all in the 2000 series. Later on, they were changed into the 5000 series. So I gave you both, depending on what your time frame is. And then the last column in the quick roster is the last year of service. And then it comes down to modeling. You say, well, I'm modeling 1955, and then you look at this model's available and say, well, the B&O no longer had one service. So why buy that model unless you really like it? So the purpose here is not to get involved in buying a lot of B&O stuff, because most of us have been that route, and then find out, oh, it doesn't fit my time frame. Doesn't fit my location. And that's one of the advantages of the references. If you're modeling the BRMP, then you may not want to buy certain locomotives unless it's in the diesel era, because they didn't run them on the BRMP. Or as Nick does, he does the Somerset and Cambria, which is the branch from Rockwood up to Johnstown, which is 40 miles long. They run passenger service there. So he doesn't need Pacifics unless he's going to do a train coming by at Rockwood. So, and most of their freight was hauled by Mikados and 2662. So, you know, it's what you want to do. Next. So you look at a close up. This is the left side of that page. You have the class, and then I put in there A1s built by Baldwin in October 1990 and January 1991. I mean 1900. So because you say, well, when did they come on the railroad? So there's that information. Then you have, okay, 1450, it's Atlantic, it was in B&O power. And you go on and go on, and you see all the different reference numbers in front of the titles. Next slide. This is the side of the second half of the page. Same lines. Okay, B&O power, page 234. It's the right-hand view, date not available. Next item on that page was page 22. Right-hand front, 3/4, not available. B&O power is notorious for not having dates in the photographs. Siegel didn't have them on the photographs, or didn't want to bother researching it, or whatever. And if you have a roster shot, unless you could see something in the background, like when we did the J.J. Young book, oh, there's a 1954 Buick there. And Nick's dad said, hey, that's an, so then we knew circa 1954. Now, it could have been after that, but at least we had a starting date. So a lot of times I put NA. I don't have any answer for it. You just have to take your best guess as you look at the photographs. Next slide. So here's section 4. It covers everything from the Americans all the way to the Emerson. Okay, and the Americans, you had the F, G, H, I, J, and M class locomotives, and a lot of them came secondhand as the B&O acquired other railroads. Those locomotives may have been on a railroad for a year, and then the B&O got rid of them. What my criteria is, if it was on the roster in 1900. It was included in this. So some of these are early Americans that were built in the 1870s, came on a railroad, were only there for 1 or 2 years, were scrapped, but somebody may want to be interested in that, so I included in the table of information. So that's what I did. Next page. And these pages are snapshots of the pages out of the book. That's why, like I said, the font was small, we could get it on there, and I had to keep it tight. Next page. And here's just on the Emerson, all the pages, all the information, and that's only one page. There's more page, another page of that, but just the list of photographs for the Emerson. Okay. Next one. Section 5 only covers the Pacifics and the Mikados, the Qs, and it's the largest section in the whole book because B&O acquired Pacifics from all over the place, and they went from P1s to P up to P19s, and there's so many subclasses for all those, and the P1s and the P5s and P7s that it kept building and building. The Qs are the same way because they had a bunch of Qs from various other areas. Now I'll tell you this: there's very little published on the Alton Railroad under B&O control. So there's a book out on the Alton, the history of Alton, covers everything going from the early years and the last years. Very little covered on the B&O years of service. So that one's a hard one to find. Next section is section 6, and that covers R, which would be old Forney's that were on Staten Island, and then your big sixes, mountains, Hudson's, decapods. So the Y class is the last one on the list. Next page. So you have all this information there. So most people that didn't have any decapods, yes, we did. They had 7 of them from BRMP. And they ran all over the system. I've got pictures, seen pictures of them down at Kaiser, West Virginia. So it's interesting information as you go. Next. Then you have section 7 is the articulateds. So from the old mod, huge section on EM1s. I mean, it's everybody's some pictures of EM1s. But then there's the MKs, the KKs, and all those. It's all included in this section. Next. And then we get into diesels, and these are the freight road units, the Alcos, EMDs, Baldwins, all those there, not the switchers, but the road units. So that's a pretty extensive list. Next. And section 9 covers passenger diesels. We have a free section on the Alco RS1s, then the Brills, RDCs, and then all the EMD switchers. I mean, passenger units that they had, including the passenger Jeeps are in this section. Next. Next. Oh, there we go. All right, then in section 10 covers all the switchers from the box cab, Alco, Baldwin, EMD, Fairbanks Morris, Plymouth, Lima, got it that time, Joe. And also includes the one gas switcher they have and the electric section. So next. And then the final section covers second generation diesels. So from the Jeep 30s on, all the second generation diesels the B&O had were EMDs. So and you go from there, and that's included in that. It includes also the Jeep 30Ms, which were a number of them were rebuilt in the 80s to, they were downgraded in the horsepower and upgraded with electronics. Next. Then Appendix 1 covers the renumbering of locomotives and diesels. This is a snapshot. It doesn't show all, it's in boxes. It's easier to read than what it is now. But this is an idea. So it covered all the steam locomotives that were renumbered in 1957 and all the diesels that were recovered and renumbered. And so it's easier to check. You just go across, there's the original number, there's the new number. So that's all there in those boxes. Next. Then the next part of it is basically modeling information. This is a project I started years ago when I did a clinical modeling B&O steam locomotives. And that time, you didn't have all the quality plastic stuff coming out. So you used to say, well, I take this Mahano Pacific and I cut this off and add this on and that. Well, most of the stuff you don't have to do that. So this is a list as I see it, okay, as prototype accurate models in steam locomotive for the B&O by class that you can use. There are people that say, why isn't that in there? Because I said, I don't think it's a prototype accurate model. So it's your judgment. There is space at the bottom at the end of each appendix that you can write your own notes in. So if you want to include something, you write your own notes. All right, next page. There's also a section on diesels up to 1972. There's a section on chassis diesels. It's all HO scale. Then there's a section on S gauge diesels, and then there's a section on O gauge diesels. I didn't do anything in N scale. Basically, it's a bunch of old guys, and we can't see anything anyway. There has been great improvement in N scale locomotives available. I just don't know that many people that model N scale. I only know 2 or 3 guys that model B&O N scale. So I just didn't do it. You know, if somebody else wants to compile that list, if I do an appendix or supplement later on, I can do it. The last section here in the appendix 7 is the commercially produced decals. and I'm gonna clarify this. If they advertise commercial, like Microscale, Champion did, Harold King, I didn't realize Harold King's still in business. There's another one I can't think of right now. Pro Custom Hobbies, who do accurate B&O decals, they're included on this list. But there are a couple guys that I know that do decals on the side. One has a website, but it's never current. And the other one does extensive decals, especially in S-Gauge, on B&O locomotives, but doesn't advertise. So if you know that, you write your own notes down and his information. I tried to contact one guy, and look him up, and it goes to send me a message. That's the extent of his webpage. So when he probably lists, oh, I got these in stock, or I'm going to do these, but that's it. He does as produces on demand. So that's how this is work. The book is 500 right now at 570 pages. And that's because I did number 10 print. There's over 17,000 data entries in this book. So you may not have all these references. My suggestion is go through the references and then highlight all the ones that you know so that you can go without the look. Like I said, it's a workbook. It's intended for you to doodle it. It's intended for you to have it there and say, oh, wait a minute, does this locomotive have this style belt? Or this locomotive have this type of injectors? Or this type of locomotive have these tender shafts, the tender wings? That way you can go and say, okay, I'm looking out for this locomotive. And because I listed by row number, you can go research it by, go down the list and say Q3, I want 4572. Now you go down the list and say, oh, there's a picture there of 4572, there's a picture of 4572, and then you know where to look for it, okay? There are guys that I know for a fact that model specific locomotives because they remember going by their house while they were growing up. Or I lived on so-and-so branch line, and what locomotives run on that branch line. And this way they can look for those specific locomotives. I modeled the B&O on the east end of the Cumberland Division. There is a reason for that. I'm a model pack rat. Every piece of equipment that B&O ever owned ran through that section of the railroad. Because even if it wasn't assigned there, it was going to Mount Clair to be serviced. So at least once every 4 or 5 years, I could justify running across my railroad. Now, I have narrowed down my error because I used to have anything that said B&O on the shelves, and I don't have enough shelf space anymore. So I focus now between 1950 and 56. Okay, but even then, I got a pile of stuff. So is there any questions? Like we mentioned, we're hoping, I tweaked the last edit reviews Thursday, sent it to Roberta on Friday. So as soon as she has those done, I get the okay. Then all we have to do is get the cover art together. The printer says if we get it in, the maximum turnaround time is 15 days. We're doing a soft cover book. We're not going to do a hard cover book. It's going to be in landscape format. That way we can make sure you have space. I try to leave space on the left and right hand side of the table so that you can put notes in there, plus you can put notes in between. I looked at it from a perspective of a modeler, not as a historian, although a historian can use it. If you want to find out information, a historian can use it. But it's all from the perspective of a modeler. We're going to do 300 copies to see how well it sells, and then printer we're using, we can print any number after that. So once the layout's done, we paid for the layout, we can do more copies. Any questions? And if somebody wants to do a similar project for freight cars or passenger car models, you're more than welcome to do this. All right, Andy. Travers has something to say, and then we'll go to the Eric.
Hi, as most of you know, we're concerned with the look and feel of the B&O Historical Society website. So I've taken on the flag here to upgrade our website, but I need your help. Where I need your help is, what do you want to see in the website? How do you want it organized? We've looked at specifically the website for the Nickel Plate Historical Society, and I ask that you take a look at that. And that's the format that we'd like to use. But what we need to know is, when you go to the website, what do you want to see? Among the ideas that have come up, or we'd like to have something from the archives that says, we need help to identify this, and we'll post that for a week or whatever on the website, and give us some feedback for what this is. Do you all want to see a roster? Do you want to see a history, a timeline? Do you want to see photos? Do you want to see stuff that we have in the archives? And what we're looking to do is get the website up to speed, modernized, and easy to navigate. And then we'll work on the company store, the e-commerce portion. What we learn about how the website will go together, we'll then look at how do we make it easy to navigate the company store, to do things like have membership renewal through the company store, have make it easy to see what we have in the archives for sale in terms of a thumbnail, and then a little bit bigger picture of what it is that you're interested in, so that we can, I mean, the society is great. We have this wonderful storehouse of knowledge, information here. And we'd like to provide it, but we'd also like to monetize. We'd also are looking at, should we have a members only portion? And maybe the members only portion has more information for you as members of the society, that you'll have more access to the information that we get. So we need some feedback on what we should include in the website. My name and contact information is in the Sentinel, the last 2 issues. Or when we finish up today, Travers Stayback, come over and buzz me in the ear. Thank you.
It'll take us probably about, because Nick is preoccupied with a different Zoom presentation. So he'll be back in about 5 minutes, and we'll set up Eric for the presentation. So, and this will be a great, Eric has a really good presentation, a good presenter on the Allegheny branch in Pittsburgh.